go. Welcome to another episode of the Powerless to Powerful Recovery Podcast. My name is Jason. I'm an alcoholic and addict. As always, our mission is to share experience, strength, and hope across multiple media platforms. The story of addiction and the road to recovery. We're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous or any other 12-step based organizations or groups in any way. This is the Powerless to Powerful Podcast. We're live at Sanctuary Studios. Shout out Sanctuary Recovery Centers. This podcast is sponsored by Sanctuary. So shout them out and, look up this stuff, man, and just come be a part of the true healing and continued care that Sanctuary has to offer. But here we are, man. It's another episode, and my new and official co-host, Ronny, no matter what. What's up, brother?
What's up, Jay?
Oh, we're here. We're rocking the blue Yankees. I mean, do we want to talk about that Yankee losing streak right now?
Yeah.
No,
we're not going to talk about that right now.
Yeah, we'll talk about Val. And our guest today, Val is here.
Yeah.
Live in the studio, Miss Valerie Prather. There she is.
Hi guys, how are you?
Here we are.
All awkward.
Hold it together, Val. You can do this.
Val, please hold it together.
Hey.
Hold it together. So on this episode, man, we're gonna, go through Valerie's story. We're gonna talk about, what it was like for her and, share some of her experience, the trauma and everything that she's been through, and ultimately, we'll kind of close out with a miracle of what life's like today. And we had I know you, obviously. You actually trained me. We worked together, right? And, me and Ron, we both met her when?
We got out of prison.
Yeah, and there she is. And it just so happened, what was crazy is the circle that you ran in with the CMA and the meetings, and then I happened to work with her, and you were running into her at meetings, and then all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I work with this dude named Jason and Sarah. People think I'm two people.
Yeah, and Sarah.
And here we are, man. It's crazy how God works, and when we're through awareness, we get to experience this power working in all of our lives, and it brought us all together right here, right now, for this moment. So, you don't have any memory from being born to 12 years old?
Not really, not at all.
Not really, or not at all?
Not at all.
Like zero?
Like zero. I know, sitting outside in Pennsylvania, because I used to go back and forth from what my mom told me, and I was playing Barbies in a green field in a trailer, and that was it. I was always alone.
And that's your only memories?
Yeah, and my dad stuffing me in the back of the couch.
Stuffing you in the couch?
Yeah, those fold-out couches?
Yeah, couch bed.
And that's really it.
That's it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the contributing factor to why you don't have any memory of your early childhood? Do you have any idea?
I'm assuming a lot of trauma.
Most likely.
Yeah,
Sure.
just
Most
trauma.
likely. Yeah, and your story's, it's got a lot of trauma, man. It can be heartbreaking at times, and when you share that, it's so powerful. And Ron, how important is it to share that type of trauma, you think?
Well, the first thing I want to say before I say that, and I need you to know this, Val, because I don't know if you know this or not, and Jason and I were talking about it. You played a huge role in me integrating back into society. It wasn't by design, right? We just happened to meet each other, right? God put our paths together. And for my first couple months out, I seen you almost every day. And a meeting, you took me to my first 4th of July in almost a decade.
It was a blast.
Who bought the glow sticks?
I think it was Dean and Ron was buying for me and Lanny.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just need you to know that, that you hold a special place in my heart, and I know Jason's as well. And with the trauma, right, I've seen the circle of women that you run with, and using those traumas from that group of women's lives to help other women heal, help them heal and help you heal, is a miracle to watch. Because I've had a front row seat for it for 17 months, right? So I get to see it, and I don't know if you know how powerful your message is. Sometimes I know you don't think it is, but it is, Val.
Thank you, I appreciate that, Ron.
Yeah, and so it's important to to share those types of things, so we know that we're not alone, and that we're not the only ones who have experienced that sort of thing. And so really your story picks up at your first memory, and that first memory is what, 7th grade?
7th grade, yep.
What's that look like?
So apparently I used to act out in 7th grade a lot. I'd come home with make your day slips, and I would secretly have my older sister sign them for me, and she got tired of it. But my stepdad knew, and that time my stepdad and my mom had a baby, and he wasn't gonna have that trouble around his newborn baby. So therefore, he kicked me out.
And you got kicked out.
Got sent to my dad's back in Tucson.
Oh, Tucson, shout out 520.
Yeah.
Shout out Wildcats, Valencia.
No, golf links in Pantano area.
Oh, my bad, golf links.
Like Lakeside.
Like Lakeside, oh, that's the trailer park over there.
No.
Oh, my bad, I just made an assumption. What do they say about assumptions? What do they say about assume? Make an ass out of you and me?
Yeah.
Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
So what was the age that you went to Tucson?
I was 13 in 7th grade, I believe. Yeah, 13.
Was there drugs, already drug use?
No, not until I went back to live with my dad, and that was 8th grade. I was like 13, 14, I can't really remember, however old I was. And my dad would take me to the bars with him until midnight, and then send me back home. And then they would come home like in between like 2 and 4 and start drinking and partying with me.
So, I mean, it was just a full-on party at all times. So, you know, you had the cool parents, right?
Yeah, at the
Cool
time.
mom, cool dad?
Well, I really admired my stepmom a lot. That's who like introduced me to like my first addiction.
Yeah. And so, one thing I know about cool mom and cool dad kids, they go to prison.
Yeah.
We always want cool mom and cool dad, but when we're sitting there on the yard, want some money on the books,
You don't get shit.
you know,
You don't get shit. Tough love.
tough love, right? And so, you know, when we're starting to, you know, party at a young age and we're, you know, going to the bars and parents coming home and you're alone a lot and the progression starts, 14 years old, you start drinking, you know, and then you get introduced to hard drugs. Do you remember the first time, what was the hard drugs you got introduced to?
So it was cocaine with my stepmom first, and then weed. That's what I started doing at 14. And then I decided to go live my own life, leave my dad's house, and I got introduced to pills. So I was doing pills, and then I did heroin in bed.
Opiates?
No, it was just like Klonopin.
Oh,
I
okay.
used to snort them because they tasted like Smarties, so I really, really liked them.
Oh, brother.
Yeah.
Smarties.
Tasted good.
Smarty.
First off, you might be the only person in America that thinks Smarties are good.
They are. That's my favorite candy, actually.
Oh my god, it checks out. What was the first hard drug you did? Were you smoking crack, huh? You're old school.
Crack.
Crack.
I
Yeah,
love crack.
Ether-based crack.
Yeah.
That was.
I love crack. Val?
I love crack so much.
So what I want to ask you, Val, is, you know, because we all know what the book says, right? The big book says men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like to me, from knowing you and hearing you had this trauma, and now it's acceptable for you to get loaded in the house, so you don't have that stigma of the authority figure saying no, you can't do that. What did at that age? What was drugs and alcohol doing for you?
It was making me be part of something. I had friends. I was the 16-year-old hanging out with my dad's guy friends and the women that they brought over, and that's a whole nother situation that I got into with that. But you know, a 16-year-old shouldn't be hanging out with older people, but people their age, right? And that's not what I was doing. I was picked on, bullied throughout high school until like my junior year, because I like stood up for myself and I was like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. So yeah, being a part of something, the drugs definitely made me feel a part of.
Right, because you were alienated with kids your age, right?
Mhm.
Picked on, bullied, teased, whatever it was,
Mhm.
and now you're with the cool parents.
Yeah.
But again, the kids of the cool parents end up where, Jay?
Yeah, they go to jail. They go to prison. That's where they go. And, you know, we always talk about that, man. You know, the drugs and the alcohol are the solution to the problem. The problem is, you know, the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment, the remorse, the regret, the trauma, the self-loathing, the low self-esteem. You know, there's just such a combination that goes into it, because once we put drugs and alcohol into our system, we get that relief, right? And drugs and alcohol work, and they always work. Don't think, don't feel, don't care.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't even matter, right? But the problem is, and that's how we get caught in that cycle of a spree, where every time we use again as the solution to the negative emotions, we create more negative emotions. And so we're like hamsters running on a wheel, and every time we feel again, when we kick into the remorse stage, it feels worse every single time, and it feels like we can't get out of there. And as alcoholics and addicts, man, we have a high threshold for pain. And I know you got a high threshold for pain.
Yeah, I definitely like pain.
Yeah, and so as humans, we avoid pain at all costs and pursue pleasure by any means, right? And so the progression of the next 5 years, there's a story about a treehouse.
Yeah,
You lived in a treehouse?
Yeah, it was like the coolest thing ever. So like everybody down in the house would like drink, but I would go up in my tree house and I would do dope. And I'd fuck around with people who would walk by and like throw papers at them and be like, tweet, tweet, tweeter, you know?
So this treehouse was actually in the backyard of your parents' house?
No, it's not at my parents'. This time I left home already,
Okay.
on my own.
This is in the back of the trap house?
It was actually in the front of the house.
The
Of a
house
trap
in the front
house.
yard.
They had a tree house in the front yard.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And
But
what-
you couldn't see us because the tree was so big and
no.
it was hidden.
Nobody saw you at all,
Yeah,
man.
No.
they didn't even know you were there.
So I used to fuck with people walking by all the time.
And so now over the next 5 years, you're couch surfing, you're involved with, bikers and, being out here in Arizona, Tucson, it doesn't matter where you're at in Arizona. If you want to get drugs for cheap, you got to have the Mexican National Connect, the Paisa Connect.
I love my kisses.
And you always had that Paisa Connect.
Yes.
Right? So what's just, in a nutshell, what's the next, 5 years of hardcore, full throttle, 6th gear, active addiction? What's the next 5 years like? And I kind of bullet pointed some of the things that were there, but what's that time period look like for you?
It was chaos, just self-destruction really. I just did whatever I wanted. I had no adult authority. I got introduced to doing meth. 3 days later, heroin. And within a month, I'm shooting them up both. Like I've been doing dope for my whole life. And we used to like trap out in these apartments and we had boarded windows and it was cool because we'd go in there and just sleep and the manager of the apartment complex actually, my baby's daddy's dad snorted.
Your baby's daddy's dad.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a whole shit show that was going on. But actually snorted coke off of her butt crack. So we had stuff against her and we had it on camera.
Wolf of Wall Street?
Like shit got
We
crazy.
don't want to get sidetracked right now, me and you.
Venice.
Yeah.
Venice.
I mean, we actually boarded a deal today, brother, just like the old days. Hit that thing, brother. And so, just the insanity that ensues, Ron, do you remember, when you discovered meth?
I do, and like when you just said that, I just kind of got all warm and fuzzy because meth cured a 25-year crack cocaine addiction for me, and then it also convinced me, like, because I immediately did the meth, and the crack pipe I threw on the ground, and my mind said, "You're not a drug addict. You were just doing the wrong drug. This is the one, right? This is the drug that," because I was able to do other things besides just be in a room smoking crack. It added to everything, and I had this false reality, and I pulled it off for a while. But what always happens with the meth, though, right? It brings us to that place.
Happy psychosis.
Yeah, and so it brings you to that place.
What about the cat? Yeah, let's talk about that place. What about the cats
Oh.
and the birds? I need to know about
And the
this.
aliens and the spaceships.
Alright, so like I said, when I was with baby daddy in Tucson, before I found out about the birds and the cats,
No, I don't know. But you're going to educate us today.
Yeah.
Usually I'm educating you, and you're going to educate me and Ron today.
But like we would go on a sick one, baby daddy would be with a guitar, butt ass naked, just like
Oh,
hopping.
Matthew McConaughey in it?
Yeah.
Butt naked in the front yard
Yeah,
with music?
And you just thought he was so hot and that was so romantic.
Dude, no. Like, I thought it was funny. Like, I would be in the closet because the apartments, you would just open the closet door and you can see through the front window. So I'd just laugh, and then we'd go search for our invincible spaceship
Did you ever
with
find it?
aliens. No, we didn't. We're still searching.
Still?
Still to this day.
Even in recovery.
Even in recovery.
Oh my God.
No, I'm just kidding, but.
We work together. We might have to schedule you a sit down with our clinical director. You might want to talk about that.
It's probably a good idea.
And I remember, Ron, the reason why I asked you about the meth is, because you're coming from the East Coast out here in New York,
Yeah.
and you come out to Arizona, and you had a real resentment against everyone out here in AZ.
Yeah.
Why we were holding something from you, we were hiding something from you.
Yeah, you're hiding that. The methamphetamine was, it did so much for me when I did it. It just changed everything. I mean, everything was already so off kilter, and I was already so broken. And then, in a weird way, the meth fixed everything, because it fixed a lot of problems I had in my life, and that was not being able to have a job, not being able to have a home, not being able to have a car. I did meth. All of a sudden I had 2 cars, I had a home, I had a girlfriend. I'm like, wow, how did this happen?
But it was all legally and it was prostitutes, right?
Well, no, because the thing is, I was going 100 miles an hour. I was able to stay up for days and days, and it fit into the field we were in, the telemarketing, it just fit, nobody questioned it. And meth was, for me, meth brought me to my knees, like no other drug did, because mentally, it broke something up here for a very long time.
Well, you're not the only one meth brings to its knees, so.
Those kids listening, Valerie.
Oh my God, you can't help yourself.
You couldn't help yourself, could you?
Anytime I have an opening, I go for it.
Well, that's
right. In more than one way.
Yeah, that's right, Bob.
Valerie.
And so, when we really look at that though, that's the seriousness of, the drugs and the alcohol and the effects that it has on our brain, right? Because it completely hijacks our brain, right? And it tricks our brain into thinking that it's producing the natural chemicals that produces pleasure, the dopamine, the pleasure center, the euphoria, and everything that the drugs and the meth and all drugs produce at such a high amount, a mass amount, that it tricks the brain into thinking it's doing it. So when we get sober or we go to detox or we finally hit rock bottom, dude, we feel like we want to put a bullet in our head and we're going to die. And it's because our brain is pretty much shut down in the neural pathways and transmitters, and it's just a hot wired ass brain, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we're looking for aliens and spaceships,
What about the cats? Please tell us briefly about the cats.
Okay, so the second round, because I got clean and sober for like 2.5 years, I ended up having my first child, and then got back with baby daddy. He got out of prison.
Did you ride him while he was gone?
I actually did.
Good for you.
I did.
Were you faithful?
We weren't together.
Yeah,
so
it didn't matter.
At this time, this is where like the beginning of our relationship really started, was when he was in prison. So he got out, and I thought I could take care of him, right, and have a kid.
Fix him.
Yeah.
You fix him.
Yeah.
And then in return, you'd be fixed.
Yeah.
Because you'd have what you wanted, right?
Yeah, because he loved me, right? I believed him when he loved me, so I'm so codependent. Anybody who tells me they love me, I'm gonna believe them. But so then we ended up having a kid, right? And then everything went to shit. He was using heroin again, and he destroyed our whole lives. I allowed him to destroy our lives, and I lost everything, and I gave custody to my mom of my 2 girls, and she put them up for adoption. And that's when I went on a sick one out here in Phoenix, and I found out there was a whole different life, and there's bird drones and bird cats.
Bird drones and bird cats.
Hold on, wait, no, drone cats and drone birds, yes.
Drone cats, drone birds. Okay,
yes.
Yeah, we got it. Doesn't matter how you say it. So you believe, and you've seen, and you believe it to be true, and you believe this, and I'm not discrediting it, because I love you, and when you love somebody, whether you believe their feelings or thoughts are bullshit or insanity or not, if they're real to them, you got to validate them. So Ron and I love you. We'll validate these feelings right now. Is that okay, Ron?
I've seen them too, Val.
Oh shit.
Yeah, when they're not chirping, when a bird is just sitting there and it's not chirping and it won't move, like, it's a fake thing.
How about this, when their head moves like it shouldn't move, like a robot?
Yeah.
I know. I'm there with you.
Yeah.
They had them in Chandler too. Jay, they were there.
They were there.
Outside our office.
And those fake palm trees they have too, that are like
cell phone towers.
Yeah, but like, trust me, if they have those fake palm trees, they have fake freaking birds.
If they have cell phone towers, they have all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The government
And so let's kind of just, pick back up and kind of get to really see the full scope of it, because we're talking about, someone who has basically been on their own since, high school, started using drugs in between 8th grade and freshman year, hardcore drugs and couch surfing and tree houses and trap houses and, everything that comes with that, extreme amount of trauma, and you really haven't even experienced or yet up until this point the real insanity and the traumatic experiences that kind of mold us for everything that's to come going forward. And you have some kids, you get your life together, but you lose everything again. I mean, how many times, Ron, have we done that, man? Where we get everything back and then we lose it all again. How when you're sitting there after just getting everything back, and just like you said, Val, I can do it one time, and then the progression of the disease, we lose everything quicker every time. You remember when you're sitting there, man, with your hands on your head with a duffel bag, right? And I know I was gonna have to send you to Ohio because you were at all these warrants, and we had to get you some money together, right? You remember that feeling after having the house and the car and the BMW and the the telemarketing office and everything that we had together, dude? What was that feeling like for you?
It was, wow. I mean, you just said it just hit me, because when you were going through that list of stuff, you know what I mean? I kind of was living that delusional dream that you live in addiction. If I could only get these things, I would be okay. And I did get the house, I had the girlfriend, and then I had the side chick, right? I had the hot side chick.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and I had the BMW and the money and the stuff like that. And then when it exploded, what hit me the most is when you did get me to Ohio, and I went and I got that studio apartment in Fremont, Ohio. Shout out Ohio.
Yeah, shout out Ohio.
One light town, right on the Sandusky River, and I go into this 3rd story. I had to climb up all these stairs to get into this little studio, and I walk in there, and there's a Murphy bed in the wall, and you pull the Murphy bed out, and I remember I pulled it out, and I sat on that Murphy bed, and I broke.
Yeah, like, oh my God, dude, this is what I'm doing now? Shit.
Incomprehensible demoralization, right? We talk about that quicksand, right? It was super quicksand. And then when you're in it, you want to get out, and your intentions are that we do want to get out. We are going to do better. I'm going to love him a little bit more. I'm just going to work a little harder. I'm going to pay more attention to the kids, and that's going to be the solution, right?
Yeah.
But then what do we say? We're just going to do a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Take the edge off. I worked real hard. I'm only going to smoke spice.
That's it.
Just for the record, I'm going to front you off right now, dude. This dude had a $500 a day spice habit.
Oh Lord, and you got
that
retarded?
happened. That happened.
Yeah.
Well, you might ask my wife and she might tell you otherwise. I don't believe so.
Well, she is the boss.
It got to the point, because this is when spice was, when they were coming out with all these laws about it, and this was the funny thing, he had burned up all the spice connects in town, so he used to have to send me in because I got the paint job, right? So I go in and they know I'm a convict. He'd go in there, they're like, no, you're a cop, get out of here.
Yeah, 'cause they made it illegal and they would never sell to me, so I'd have to send Ron in there.
Yeah.
And so, as everything, the progression starts, and, from having everything like you had when you had the kids, now you lost the kids, you lost the house, you lost the apartment, you lost the car, you lost the job, you lost the relationship, and now we're going super hard. It talks about in the doctor's opinion of the big book, make the supreme sacrifice rather than continue to fight, right? And we'll sacrifice everything, our freedom, our health, our children, right? Sometimes we're on a suicide mission, right? Fuck it, I don't even care, it doesn't even matter. And so you go on this next 4 or 5 year run, and it gets bad for you. So I want you to take a moment here and just share what it was like from living in the river bottom and the county jail trips, and if you're willing and you feel comfortable enough, I'd like you to share about what the trauma was that ensued during that period of time, because I think it's so powerful for others to hear that, because you've overcame it, you know the solution, and it doesn't rule your life anymore. So I want you to take a little bit of an opportunity to, because you said what, a shit show?
Oh yeah, it was a complete shit show.
Okay, let's hear about this shit show.
So the life in Tucson was all fun and games that I thought, right? But I come out here to Phoenix and it's a whole different ball game out here on the streets. I get caught up with this dude after I gave my kids away, but I was still getting my kids sometimes, and I would be smoking dope with them in the rooms and everything, and I just couldn't do that anymore after like a month or so, you know. So I just gave them up, and I lived on the street. They stole my car, and they actually dropped me off at a prostitution ring, and that was crazy. Pisces I did not like anymore after that. I was all like, oh, okay, now I know what you guys are really all about, you know? I seen a girl in the trailer with a chain on the outside, and she was passed out on heroin. They drugged her up. This dude, he came out, and he had like an AR-15 strapped to him, and he was like, what are you doing? You want some dope? You want to get high with us? And I was like, sure, you know, but I was smart. Like, even though I did heroin, I wouldn't give myself away for heroin. Like, I knew the game, I knew what people were about out here, and I ended up escaping. They like shut the door because they were high inside, and I left out the back door because all the Pisces that were out there were in the like outhouse in the bathroom, like watching the girls shower. It was like super weird. And this was out in Avondale, Goodyear, across the train tracks on MC-85. I later realized these people were called Midnight Productions out there.
That's some real scumbag shit, that Midnight Productions stuff.
Yeah, it is, and it's crazy that this even, like, it's true, like, you know what I mean? Like, you hear a lot of people tell their stories about it and stuff, and some people are like, oh, that's not true, you were just crazy. Like, even my mom, and I'm like, no, look it up. Like, I gave her all the evidence to it, and she was like, okay, I believe you, because I got clean and sober eventually, you know? And, but they followed me. They never kidnapped me again, but they followed me, and they gaslighted me completely all the time to make me think I was super, super crazy. And then after that,
Why don't you explain what gaslighting is?
Gaslighting, they make you, like, believe something's real, but it's not. And then, like, they would used to do, like, signals. They would honk, and then other people would honk across the thing. And it was, what is that called? It was just, like, signals to make you think you're crazy. They follow you and
they were just
play with
basically, you know, gassing you up, right, to continue to live in this insanity and basically to break you mentally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what it looks like. You know, we're talking about being out on a ranch with some Pisces out in Avondale in a prostitution ring, having to
It was
escape.
a poodle ranch.
What?
It was a dog ranch, like, out in Migas. That's where it was. Yeah, that was crazy.
Only you, Valerie.
Yeah.
Okay, so you escape and now you're living in the river bottom, right?
Yeah.
So what's that, you know, what's that like?
The river bottom, oh god, that was crazy.
Didn't you tell me a long time ago that the Avondale police burnt your campsite down, you were pissed?
Mm-hmm. Avondale police actually burnt the river bottom down a lot of times and made it think that us homeless people did it. And that was like their way of getting us out of there and running us out. It happened actually, when was it? On 4th of July one year. It's actually in the newspapers and everything. Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, so you're living in the river bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Ron, between me and you, go ahead.
No, because when I hear you talking about this, and I know when we do drugs, we feel invincible, right? We feel unbreakable. But there had to be moments when you were afraid, Valerie. I mean, you're a woman by yourself in those situations, and I know that you use humor a lot of the times to you know, you do the, and it really is, holy shit, this is messed up, right?
Yeah. That's my coping mechanism, though. That's
Right.
how I cope.
Talk a
with
little bit
things.
about that, about the fear that was associated with how you were living.
I never slept. Never slept.
Paranoid, scared.
And when I would sleep, it would be when I was up for like a stint period of time, and I would just pass out. And I actually had this one dude who I trusted and confided in, and I ended up waking up to him doing things to me, and I was like, you ever touch me again, I'm gonna kill you. That's actually the same dude that gave me a hot shot and tried killing me, and that's what the scar is on my right arm, if you guys ever seen it, you know?
Right.
I actually ended up tripping for like 12 hours thinking my kids were being tortured and kidnapped, my whole family. It was insane. It's scary. It really is. Because you don't know who to trust. You can't even trust your own kind out there. It's like what this world has become is such a crazy, psychotic, insane world. It's like I can't even believe like it's happening at all.
Do you ever, you know, like now that I'm like, you know, out the game, right, and everything that we all are, right, we're all in retirement, if you will. You know, when I think about it, you know, all the insanity just of our own lives and just our own stories and all the crazy insanity that we have been through and everything that you've been through, do you ever think like there's just millions of people that are just clueless as to what's going on right around them? Do you ever think that? Because I'll be driving and be like, damn, there's some crazy shit that I know what's going on over there. Most people have no idea about that. Do you ever have those thoughts?
Yeah, I'm scared for them.
Yeah, me too. Especially with the climate right now, with the fentanyl epidemic, and like any QT I drive by, it breaks my heart because I have a daughter your age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And any QT I drive by, I see 20 Valeries in the parking lot, right?
You couldn't handle 20
No, but you know what I'm saying? These young women,
Mm-hmm.
and my heart breaks for them because I know what they're doing. I know what the scene is, and I know that you talked about it, that insanity, that fear of not being able to trust anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But the other side of that is this too, Val, and I'm a firm believer in this, and I know we all are. There's a reason we're all at this table right now. There's a reason we all met, and there's somebody who needs to hear your story, and that's why you're doing this today. They need to hear you say this because maybe they need to get the motivation or the courage to be able to ask somebody for help. Because if you ask crazy Valerie, right, can do it and live this life sober and be able to have a job and a career, and we'll get to all that in a minute, well then they can too, and that's that hope, right? That's that hope, that little glimmer of hope that all of us needed at one point, because if there was no hope, we wouldn't have done what we needed to do to get our feet going in the right direction, how Jason always says, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so, you know, ultimately that's what this whole podcast is about from the very beginning when I first started this thing, was just if I spent the next 15, 20 years recording, you know, however many episodes, however much time that I spent on it, and only one person, you know, got their feet moving, initiated some action, you know, moved through the stages of change and was able to recover, then every minute that I spent will be worth it, you know. Fortunately, God has his hands in this thing, obviously, because we're sitting here together tonight. And, you know, if you listen to the first episode of, you know, the new edition, my co-host Ronny, No Matter What, and our story, you know, it's truly a miracle that we are all sitting here today. And so when we look over, you know, the next, you know, chapter, right, it's important for everyone to understand, because a lot of times when we start talking about our stories and you're listening to a podcast and then you start to hear what life's like today, sometimes you forget real quick what it was like and everything that it took. I mean, we're talking about losing your kids, we're talking about being kidnapped, we're talking about being sexually abused, we're talking about psychosis, right? We're talking about living in river bottoms and, you know, living in fear and constant fear and being gaslighted and being chased and aliens and spaceships and tree houses and couch surfing and Pisces and poodles and all kinds of crazy shit.
Robot cats.
That ultimately, it only ends in, you know, that's what they say, it ends in three ways. What are they?
Jails, institutions, and death.
Oh my.
And thank God, yours ended-ish, because there was another slip involved, in a prison sentence on DOC, right? So you did a 2.5-year prison sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get big.
What were your thoughts when you were in there? What were your thoughts and plans when you were going to get out? What were you going to do?
I was gonna stay clean and sober. I was gonna get my kids back. I was gonna work the steps because I got a little bit of what the taste was for it in there, but I still didn't know a lot of it because it wasn't really big on our yard. And I was just gonna go back to school and I was gonna just be sober. I really didn't have anything but be sober.
You're like, dude, I'm just going to be sober and I'm, you know, not coming back here. I'll tell you that. That's
Yeah.
what I'm not doing.
Yeah, because it was horrible. I got kicked out of the kitchen actually. So
Like
I
stealing spices.
no, chicken fried rice actually.
Chicken fried.
Yeah,
You don't
the-
want to know what I thought you get.
The girls pay for that on the yard and bleach too, and that was my hustle because I didn't have anybody. Like-
you did laundry, you did
Yeah.
all that, right?
Yeah, for me and my roommate or my bunkie, who's now actually my roommate to this day too.
Yeah,
And-
shout out her.
Yeah,
You want to throw her name out there?
sure, Rashawn.
Yeah, shout out Rashawn. You know what it is up in Bullhead City.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, she's probably on a trip. And so,
Actually, she's home.
oh, she's home?
Yeah.
Shout out Wingstop. You know what it is too.
Yeah.
All through there.
Yes.
And so, you get out and, we have all these dreams and aspirations, but nothing changes if nothing changes. Every time people they come back to prison, Ron, and we're like, dude, what happened? Well, I went back to what I know, so if that's your answer, well, you better learn something new.
Right.
And that's the whole point. We have to learn this new design for living that gives us an opportunity to handle life, because life still happens. But instead of, having to use and contribute to more problem, we find solutions, and we're able to navigate that life because we do it together as part of our team. It's a team sport. And so you have a slip, you have a relapse, and, you met a guy, right?
Yeah, at Crossroads Arcadia.
Yeah.
It's a shit
Did
show.
you get 13 stepped, or did he 13 step you?
I think I 13 stepped that one. I don't know.
That one, there's multiple.
No,
That
no.
checks out.
No,
Yeah,
no. I'm not like that, Ratchet.
Who had more time? Who had more time?
Let's
I
get down to the
think-
bottom of it.
He was in rehab longer than I was in my sober living.
Okay, so.
But I mean, we were still fairly new. But I didn't even know what 13 stepping was. So
It's okay.
Yeah, 13 stepping is step 1 plus step 12, right? The 1 plus 12 is 13. Let me share my unmanageable life with you.
yeah, well, I didn't know that at the time, right? Because I was in prison and I only had a little bit of that taste of what AA was.
2 dead batteries can't start a car, Val.
I will try. I will try anything.
And that's why the big book talks about it, because the most, for all of us, I think every single person in some way, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, we all struggle with some form of codependency. I mean,
The silent killer.
yeah, it is, right? And so the big book says, job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply do not stop using or drinking if we place dependence upon people ahead of dependence upon God. Because that's a relationship that will always be there as long as we're doing our part. How do we do our part? Prayer, meditation, understanding how we experience spirituality in our life and introducing those things into our lifestyle helps us to maintain that connection. And so finally, ultimately, the pain became so great. You share that the birds and the cats, if you want to pick up there, because ultimately wandering the streets, being paranoid and psychosis ultimately leads you to the hot room at the shout out to the Skelly house and all the wonderful, beautiful ladies at the Skelly.
I've heard so much about this hot room.
So
Yeah.
why don't you share what brought you in?
So really I hit my rock bottom and I called up my roommate and told her I wanted to get clean and sober, I was tired of running. I was walking so much, miles and miles, just being alone out there, and I just had enough of it. And she told me about this place, and I thought it was going to be like a detox, but it was not anything I've ever seen before. It is an empty ass apartment, no TV, no nothing, one book, and you just sat there and detoxed until you were clean. Until you pissed clean, you could come out of that room and start living a life. And then you had to get a job. You had 2 weeks to get a job. Like, there's no ifs,
Shout out
ands, or
McDonald's.
buts. No, actually, it was labor ready first.
Oh,
They were ready.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah, and then your life begins. You detox, which that's respect on that. And so then you start your life, and now we're talking about working the steps. And what do you think the hardest part for you was, or the biggest obstacle, when it comes to working the steps for you?
Not playing the victim anymore.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Finally taking responsibility for everything in your life and heal from that. Because, I can sit here and say, everything that's happened to me was other people's fault, which some of it was, it wasn't my fault that happened, it just did. But it was my fault for putting myself in this position to allow it to happen. Because if I was never in that position, it would have never happened.
That's huge.
Probably.
That's huge, right?
Yeah.
To come to those realizations, because we carry those resentments around for a long time, and that's how we justify it, and that's how we make it okay up here, and then all of a sudden somebody tells us we did play a part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in everything.
In every single thing, we play a part, and a lot of times that part is using that event that we didn't play a part in and then holding on to it for 20 years and using it as a justification to continue to use drugs and alcohol. Right? So you start to work the steps and then you get a job, and now we actually work together. This podcast is sponsored by Sanctuary Recovery Centers. We're actually at Sanctuary Studios right now.
Shout out Sanctuary.
And we work together. You actually train me. You're one of the longest standing employees with the company. We get to work together on a day-to-day basis. You got a better job and a better job, then all of a sudden now you work at Sanctuary, and then you started out as a BHT, and then you became a lead BHT, and now you're a case manager, you're at IOP, you got your own place, you and the same roommate from the Skelly house, you guys have your own place now.
From prison too,
yeah. Right? Like, you guys have been riding tough together.
Yeah.
You must have fluffed good pillows in prison.
I was a pillow princess.
Oh, you beat me to it. You beat me to it.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
I want to hear about this beautiful baby boy though.
And so I know I kind of summed all that up. No, I want to hear it from you though. I summed up some of the major aspects of your life, but just talk about what going to college, pursuing an MA degree, getting your GED, having a beautiful new baby that you get to be a mother to and experience it and be present in it, and have so many people who love you and support you and are around you to pitch in to help you as you continue to go to school and have your career. I want you to just share since you surrendered and you got sober, you put God first above every relationship, because you've struggled in some relationships. You've had to, cut some off, and it wasn't always easy. So why don't you just share what life's like today, and all the just amazing victories that you get to experience on a day-to-day basis.
Well, it's the promises, they say, right? When you work your 12 steps, the promises will come true, and that's everything in my life. Like my own place, I own my vehicle now, paid off. I unfortunately went back to the baby daddy and, had a little one-night stand and ended up getting pregnant after a relationship, right? And so I'm blessed with a beautiful son now. I'm going back to school. I have a month left in that. I finally get to do something I really always wanted to do, and that's to be a medical assistant, like you said. And I got my high school diploma. It wasn't even a GED, it was a high school diploma.
My bad.
Yeah,
my bad.
So that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I had to do that at the same time being pregnant, going to school, going to college, and I had to do my high school all at once. It's hard work, right? But like, as long as you're determined and you want to do things for yourself to be a better person, like, you'll achieve it. And yeah, blessings are great, dude. Wonderful boyfriend. I got a wonderful relationship.
Shout out to your new relationship. Big shout out.
Yeah, he treats me well. He's not my higher power. He does his thing, I do my thing, and there's no jealousy, there's no putting me down emotionally or mentally or even physically, and it feels good, right? Like, that is a plus in my life. Like, I'm happy with who I am today, but those things that I get in my life are just big bonuses, and it's awesome.
I mean, and Ron, how cool has it been to see, to experience, because all these victories, how long have you been sober now, Val?
I'll have 3 years, September 20th.
We're talking about 3 years.
3 years.
No fronts though, right?
No fronts. I got bad credit, Claire. I want you to just, what has it been like for you? Because you had, just like you said, you had a front row seat, just like I have. You're with her when she's outside of work, and you guys are at meetings together, and you guys are hanging out, and you guys are part of each other's recovery, and then she comes to work and sees me. So we have both had a front row seat. But what has it been like just to see the way that Val has just continued to navigate life and continue to grow in so many impressive ways?
Sure. To watch it, right, to watch, since I've known you these 16, 17 months, and see where you came from, just in recovery, right? The trials and the tribulations of recovery, getting into the relationships. When we met, you were right at the end of that relationship, and there was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stress in your life. And then I watched you move on from that relationship, find yourself, grow, continue to stay sober. And like, I don't know if you realize this too, like I said in the beginning, you were a huge part of my integration back into society, right? And then the twist to it was, you're one of those females that's in my circle that I'm safe around, and vice versa, that we know it's not about any of that, right? It's about compassion, love, and understanding. I've learned that from you. I don't know if you know that, but I've learned how to be a friend with a female without trying to get her in bed.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, you and Jason were my first experience into trusting a man after that relationship and recovery. Like, you guys were solid dudes, and that is what I'm really thankful for. And I'm glad you say that, because that means a lot to me.
It's huge.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We got to relearn all these things, man. And
Relearn. I never knew them.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is we get to do it together. And so, having that front row seat, Val, and going through it with you. We worked together, me and you, for a year straight, just you and I running residential treatment together, and experiencing everything and having those talks and having a shit ton of laughs and some still insanity in our recovery together, and just experiencing all that and bringing you to this moment. This is season 3 of the podcast. I needed to bring another voice in, and no better person to do it than my brother Ron. And so what we're doing, and just so for all the listeners that we have all across the world and across the nation, continue to follow the podcast. If you want to be on the podcast, reach out. Valerie obviously works with us. I've said it multiple times. We're going to bring on a couple other Sanctuary team members. Ron and I will continue to, share their message, and then we're really going to turn it up, Ron and I, for season 4. It's going to go next level in so many different ways. There might be turkey basters, and there might be...
those butt rockets.
Oh
I can't forget the butt rockets.
Talking about food. We like to eat, Val.
Yeah. Valerie.
Yeah. Again, Val.
They do call me Queen Ratchet.
Oh, and that's another thing I got to give you credit for. I learned that word from you and Stina and Valerie, ratchet.
Yeah.
I don't know what that word was, and then I finally got it figured out that ratchet. When you Google it, Valerie's picture comes up.
There it is.
Like this.
And so it's just important, man, for everyone listening out there, if you can just listen to the issues, the trauma, the experience, the pain, the gift of desperation, and what happens, when you, take vigorous action, you're honest and open-minded and willing to do this thing and go all in, you get to experience the promises. And Ron and I get to experience them not only in our own life, but we get to witness them, on a day-to-day basis in your life. And we're just, I love you, and I'm extremely proud of you. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Valerie, I just want to say this. I just want to say it's been an honor having you as a friend, and I care about you a lot, and I want to see nothing but beautiful things for you. And I know that you continue to do the things in your life that you're doing. There's stuff that you can't even imagine that is coming your way for you and Anthony and for your boyfriend. And you're a prime example of somebody who matters and who's valuable, and you have a voice today. You don't have to be quiet. You don't have to be that scared little girl anymore. You can be that strong, independent woman, and you can say how you feel and feel how you say, right? How it goes. I'm proud of you, Valerie. Big time. Thank you.
And so for all the listeners out there, man, episode will be dropping every single week. Me and Ron, we're doing the damn thing. The co-host now, Ronny, no matter what, it's in the building, and we'll be here. And so continue to look out, subscribe our stuff, Powerless to Powerful, the TikTok, Ronny, no matter what. You can look up either one of our names, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. We're all over the place, man. Share the material, share the content, and continue to be supportive to us in the podcast, man. It means the world to us. So continue to look out for the new episodes. A new episode will be dropping every single week. So tune in.
Let's go.